Today, Terri Moore. Her story is so unbelievable. It's a redemption story from massive addiction, massive drug dealing in the streets. You'd think this sweet little lady would have just had a little peaceful life. Well, the worst day of her life, when she was robbed, had a gun in her neck, raped. The worst day of her life turned into the best day of her life, and we're going to learn all about that and how that all happened. But first,
facing head-on the emotions beneath the surface as we bridge from an old world of confusion and lack to a beautiful new world of freedom, abundance, and love with straightforward truth and inspired hope is what you'll find on The Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating. Here's your host, Charla Anderson.
Good, beautiful day, beautiful, beautiful souls. This is Charla Anderson, host of The Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating, especially you. Today, Terri Moore. Her story is so unbelievable. It's a redemption story from massive addiction, massive drug dealing in the streets. You'd think this sweet little lady would have just had a little peaceful life. Well, the worst day of her life, when she was robbed, had a gun in her neck, raped. The worst day of her life turned into the best day of her life, and we're going to learn all about that and how that all happened. But first, today, as always, we're going to take that first little mini vacation, a 22-second little breathing exercise. We're going to breathe in some calm. We're going to hold for 4 seconds and then breathe out 11 seconds of gratitude. So let's just jump in and get some grounding and centeredness. Breathe in calm for 7 seconds. Hold. Relax, release. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for joining me on our little Be Still and Know moment. I do that every week. I just feel like we're so attached to our little machines, our little devices, that we sometimes don't take time to be still and know and hear that still small voice. You're going to be blown away today. I am so thrilled that Lyon, our mutual friend, another show host, Lyon with Lead with Lyon is her TV show, and Joy Minder is her business. She introduced me to Terri Moore, Terri, Terri with an I, because many people will listen instead of watch. Because her story is off the charts, unbelievable. So many things have happened to her in her life, and most exciting thing, as of this week, there's going to be a movie made about it. And can you believe that? So Terri, this is fun. We just have conversation. It's just fun. So I want to hear who you are in this world now, and we'll talk about how you got there and a little bit about what you're doing now.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Charla, so much for having me. And it's a blessing. I'm always feeling blessed when somebody wants to hear my story. So where am I at today at 68 years old? 68 years young. I am a certified transformational coach, best-selling author of a book called Face to Face with God, My Best Friend. And I am also a certified professional storytelling speaker. And I absolutely love being on stages where I can just empower individuals to be their very, very best. And when I tell my story, it's so funny because you cannot hear a pin drop. So I'm going to tell that story in a little bit. But right now I have so many projects going on. I'm sure Charlotte's going to ask me about that later. I live in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I'm married to my husband of 30 years, and I have a little fur baby named Lily that's going to be turning 14 next month. So, yes.
14. Oh, dog lives, man. Yeah. So, I had a little dog named Joy, and then I found out my name means joy. It's a lot of story around all that. And my signature is choose joy, and then my pastor said my name means joy in Greek. I'm like, ooh, very, very cool.
Wow.
So you have. Where do you want to start with this? Do you want to start with your story? The way you're a master storyteller is what I understand. And do you want to start with your story? Do you want to start? This is, I call it your show. So what feels right for you right now? Because we're very in tune to where we're being led sometimes in these conversations. So
Sure, absolutely. Well, my life started living in a dysfunctional family. I had parents that were alcoholics. I had a brother who bullied me, said things to me like, "You're trash," or "Nobody's going to want you. Nobody's going to love you." And then I had my mom was always saying, "Why can't you be like so-and-so?" So I grew up in that family of not feeling like I was worthy enough, not feeling like I was good enough. I tried to, come home and tell my mom, "Oh, I want to be a professional dancer." And, she was like, "Dream on." Well, guess what? I auditioned for the New York Rockettes, and I made it in the audition. But then I fell playing volleyball, and I broke my elbow, and that disqualified me. Literally broke my heart, So I was my own cheerleader. But then when I was in kindergarten, supposed to be your most independent day of your life, you say, "Bye-bye, Mommy, bye-bye, Daddy." Well, what happened is within 5 seconds, a little boy named Jim Brocky walked up to me, and he says, "Why does your hair look like it's been put in a light socket? Why does your clothes look like it came out of a dumpster? And why are you so ugly?" So I want to tell you something, Charla. Those things that he said to me held me hostage for many, many, many years. Because at 5 years old, your self-esteem is starting to be transformed, and you're starting to understand more about yourself. But gosh, I was just warped with my self-confidence immediately. And lucky me, I had him all through elementary school because we were in the same classroom, same homeroom. So it was just complete torture. So I didn't know who I was. I lost my true self. And so then I went on to, high school and became a professional ice skater. And after that, then I worked my jobs and everything like that, but I did not have the confidence that I do today. And so fast forward a little bit, when I was 27 years old, I thought I met the man of my dreams, only to find out one day after going through some baby pictures that I ran across a document that just changed my whole entire life. It said my ex-husband's name versus the state of Indiana penitentiary, and that got my attention very clear. And I started going through the document, and next thing I know, I realized that my husband of today that I was my husband back then that I was madly in love with, was in prison for first-degree murder. You see, he told me he was in the Marine Corps for 9 years before we met. And then one day, all of a sudden, I discover he's a murderer. And what do you do with that? My whole glass ceiling of my life just completely shattered like glass. And so, long story short, I didn't go back with him at that. There's a long story behind that. But he came to my parents' house, and my mom was hiding me. But then he made the comment, "Well, if she doesn't go back with me, I'm going to go home and kill her cat and burn the house down and all her belongings." Well, I'm dealing with a murderer, so I have to believe him, right? So I did go home. I went in the car with him. It was horrible. And when I got in the house, that's when he started hitting me, abusing me, kicking me in the face, doing all kinds of different things. I always walked around with bruises on my face. Then he held me hostage for many, 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 many months. I couldn't go out unless he knew exactly where I was going. I had to report to him. And he was having affairs on me constantly and coming home and telling me about it. And so during that time frame, I became a full-fledged alcoholic because he was holding my money hostage. I went out and became a drug dealer in our neighborhood of cocaine. I did cocaine myself, and then that wasn't enough money coming in, so I went out and went to the local bar and became the #1 female pool hustler in the state of Indiana. It was so funny, Charla, because I would literally have people walk in and they're like, well, I'm here to play Terri Moore, Terry Bracken at the time. And I go, well, that's me. And these men were like, oh, well, this is going to be a piece of cake, because I thought this was going to be a guy. And so they'd walk out $2,000 poor. I would walk out $2,000 richer.
Wow,
I know. So after we divorced, I looked in the mirror the day after, and I said, okay, you have got to get your act together. So I talked to myself. I said, you're going to go to the shopping center, and this is where I used to work. I used to play around, when I was a kid. And what I said to myself is, you're going to go and buy some makeup to cover these awful bruises. And you're going to go and get some nice clothes to make yourself feel better. And I was starting to perk up a little bit, But then everything changed. I went to the shopping center. I was trying to walk into the department store. A man I thought was just going to ask me the time of day decided he wanted to put a knife to my throat and walk me back to my car. Threw me over the passenger side. I asked him what did he want, what he wanted. He says a little bit of sex and a little bit of money would be nice. And I said, well, you can't rape me. I'm already pregnant. But I didn't know I was pregnant at the time. But he did not rape me. He did want me to do a sexual act on him. But thank God it was just not rape, because I'd be dealing with a whole bunch of other emotions. And so the beauty, when I'm on stages, Charla, I say this, don't have sympathy for me, because this turned out to be the most beautiful day of my life. And that's why they are doing a movie about this complete situation, is because I knew my life was at stake. He had a knife to my throat. He had a knife to my breast. I mean, he'd alternate. And then basically I prayed. I said, God, I don't know who you are. I don't worship you. I'm a full-fledged sinner. But if you get me out of this situation alive, I will turn my life over to you for the remainder of my days. 2 seconds, the knife goes off my throat. He opens the car door and he tells me to get out. He says he's going to go pick up his girlfriend. He's going to park my car in the parking lot, and I can do whatever hell I want. And so what happened was I walked in the department store and I completely had a nervous breakdown. And there's a lot more to it. I don't want to steal the thunder of the movie. I get in trouble from my producer. So anyway, I 2 weeks later they found him, and I sent him to prison for 30 years on 7 different accounts. And then 3 weeks after that, I was met at a restaurant that I was waitressing, where the person asked me if I wanted to go to her boyfriend's Bible talk. And I was going pool hustling that night. So everything kind of just changed. And as a result, now I've been walking with God for 38 years and loving it.
So your worst day was your best day, and that with a few details missing in that, all the details of all that horrific time. And, I want to say, go back to your kindergarten. What I say a lot on my show and my message is they don't love themselves enough to know how to love others. And they
Exactly.
hurt people. And those bullies, that little 5-year-old boy, what was going on in his life, right? So I I can't even imagine. And it's just horrific that it was allowed to go on through the whole elementary years with this same young man. But, what a tragedy for him. And I don't, not belittling what yours, but what do you think? I mean, that's a different direction. I had no idea I was going to ask that question, but what do you think that, would cause someone just as right off the bat belittle someone so much because they wasn't born that way?
Right. And sometimes it is from the home. He could have another sibling that was bullying him, making him feel bad about himself. Because when I coach people, one thing I find out quickly, they're critical on themselves. And then when they start talking about other people, I'm picking it up that they're also critical on them too. So what I try to do is help to show them that the reason you're being critical and gossiping about these people is because you're just not happy with your own life. And so there could have been something there that triggered him. I don't know. I tried to find him on Facebook several times.
Someone that is that angry and upset from childhood, unless he gets some strong support, he's probably not a happy person. And I, funny that I just picked up on that little piece, so I don't know, but it's not a little piece, but it is part of the pieces of your story when we're all watching people when there's that God-shaped hole in our heart and we keep trying to find a way to fill it and making other people feel bad. The bully mindset, making other feel bad so we feel better, but it doesn't work. It backfires 100% of the time. They don't, so it's not our society's not been very good at managing these things in a big way.
I used to be a very critical person, and I hurt a lot of people. And one of the reasons why is I was just critical on myself because I didn't know who I truly was, because people kept telling me who I wasn't. You're not good enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not smart enough. You're fat, and they were feeding me all these lies. But what happens is you believe them because your self-esteem starts really shaping up, and self-image really starts shaping up at 4 years old, believe it or not. And that's the sad part.
Yeah, at least maybe even before. So that we internalize it, and we have no way of knowing it as a 5-year-old what truth is, what's reality, and not. And so, and then your lack of self-confidence, and then your lack of I'm so proud of you for going to be a rockette and actually making it. I'm, sadly your dreams got dashed with no fault of your own, right? An accident or whatever. And so took a trajectory that we may not have intended or expected, but you had you had the drive to do stuff.
Mm-hmm. I still do.
The drive. If you can become a professional ice skater and a professional dancer, there's something deep inside of you that did want recognition and acknowledgement in a good way. So,
thank you for sharing that. I actually went on to be the #1 saxophone player too, but that was for daddy's approval. And sometimes we don't really understand why we feel we need to seek approval. And I'll be honest with you, in my 14 years of coaching, it comes down to this. Daddy issues. If your dad did not pay attention to you as a child and nurture you and kiss you and hug you, this is what happens. #1, you're going to go seek it from another man. You're going to seek it from another boy in the neighborhood or whatever the case might be. And in my case, that's what I did, because I knew my dad loved me, but he did not show it. So basically what it boils down to is our dads can force us to go into the hands of the wrong men. And they, my dad didn't realize it. Back then, that generation, they were so cold, and, they didn't really talk much about their feelings, and they just didn't love their children like they should. And, that that has warped a lot of people in the baby boomer stage. And so, so therefore we just have to learn to love ourselves in a greater way. That's all there is to it.
Exactly. So, learning. So we're looking at back at that time, but that the times were different. There was no internet. There was no. You really had to look for somebody to, or to have an innate familial support system or neighborhood, something to even know, to have a reflection of it. There wasn't all that self-reflection. I'm guessing that there may have been more than we know, but lay in bed at night wishing they hadn't done what they did or whatever. But there wasn't, men didn't, they were John Wayne, they were tough, but
they're tough. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, had to stay that tough self, but they didn't love themselves enough either to know how to love real, genuine love. So my message is unconditional love.
Yes, absolutely.
Unconditional forgiveness, and not unconditional boundaries. See, that's part of my story. Unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, not unconditional boundaries. We do need to keep our protection, our shield of protection, Psalm 91, and our angels all around us to keep us shielded, so that we don't allow that hurt to penetrate, I guess, anymore.
Yeah.
So you've got this coaching thing going on now. You've got this movie going on. You've got and the movie just happened. You knew about it a couple months, but it just happened this week, where you went and they filmed that horrific day in your life where you decided you're going to go get some makeup, you're decided you're going to go get some clothes, and you get almost raped, and you get a knife at your throat, and death threatened. That could have sent you down even a worse path. And
oh, yes.
But God, right? But God. So something in you came in and says, if you save me, I'll follow you. So then 3 weeks later, you get a invitation to a Bible study that you'd not know. I don't talk about religion at all. I mean, it's not religion. It's just about who we are, and the God in us. And when you made a promise and you fulfilled on that promise.
Yes, I did. And the weirdest thing is that my mom and my brother took a bet. They had a bet going on that I would last 6 weeks in the church, because I would be wanting to go back out to the bars, dancing, drinking, playing pool. And, people have their own convictions about this, but I believe that it's okay to drink wine. Just the Bible says you can drink, just don't get drunk, right? Don't take the dependency off of God. And I'll never forget the day that we went to this Chinese restaurant for my mom's birthday. And I had been a Christian for like 6 months, and I have not had one drink, not at all. But I ordered wine that day. Oh my gosh! You would thought the universe was closing in, because my mom and dad and my brother, they're like, "You can't drink." I go, yeah, I can. I'm only gonna have one glass of wine. Well, we know now that you're just gonna go down that rabbit hole again. Well, I proved them all wrong. My brother said I never amount to anything. I was so proud when I took him to the organization that I started, the domestic violence organization and sexual assault. I walked him through the office. My brother was very just nonchalant. He didn't have feelings. It was not like, oh, I'm so proud of you, But I wanted him to see that I did amount to something. And I wanted him to see it anyway, because, I talked about it so much. But our families can just mess us up. And so that's why I know I have a stable job as a coach, because there's too many families that are messing people up. And
there's no lack of people that could use some help and coaching. And I do some coaching as well. And we just, and I just, actually my coach this morning said something about, she's like, the leaders, there's never, you don't ever get there, right? So you always want to have some guidance. I say this, there's therapy and there's coaching, and in my brain, coaching or therapy is kind of like, you're laying on the couch and let's keep reviewing your past and past
Right.
and past and past, and you stay mired there. Whereas a coach is what's all the unlimited possibilities, and you might need both, but ultimately you need to get off the couch and have some action, accountability. And so coaches, that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. I'm all about, because I went on my own journey 30 some years ago. I wanted to find who I was, because people at my church, they were like, "Oh, you're going to make such a great leader someday," or "I love your dress," or "I love your hair," and I'd be like just spitting their compliments back in their face without them even knowing it. And went home one night and I just cried, and I was like, "God, I want to see in myself what people see in me, and I don't, and I need your help." And so I said, "We're going to go on the spiritual discovery journey." And I did. And I ran across this book called "Will the Real Me Please Stand Up?" This book changed my life so much that it's the final chapter in my book, Face to Face with God, My Best Friend. And it was amazing, because every day I would start seeing some of the new Terri coming out, and it was like, it's a war, though. You have Satan on one side and you have God on the other, and they're pulling you. And yeah, exactly. And they're talking to you, "Oh, you're going to do great. Oh, you're going to do terrible. Oh, you're so adorable. You're so ugly." So basically it took about 6 months of hard work, and gradually the new Terri came out. And when the new Terri completely came out, I just fell in love with her. I would look in the mirror, Charla, going, "Who are you?" Where is the wear and tear on your face? So that was beautiful for me, and so now everything that I went on my journey with, I implemented it. That's my coaching program now. Reclaiming your voice, removing those emotional triggers, forgiveness, self-esteem, vision, dreaming, making your life come back to the original blueprint that God created it.
And having some fun.
Yes.
Don't you think fun is a missing piece in our world? We're so attached to our entertainment that we're not really having fun. So that, I think that giving permission to people to have fun and find out what that is for them is a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I actually, this meeting this morning, I said something, they're talking about the flow of reciprocity, and a giver can't give if a receiver won't receive. You weren't aware, you could not receive the compliments because you couldn't love yourself enough to receive them. And it blocks the flow when we do that.
Definitely does. Yes, you're completely right on that. And when this book asked me to ask myself, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, where do you see yourself loving yourself back in the mirror? And I could only give me a 0. And the scale was 1 to 10. And so what happened is that like I said, I worked on myself, and then I got to the loud and proud 10. And that was the most beautiful day, because I knew I had arrived. I left the baggage at the bottom of the mountain. I climbed to the peak, and now I'm back down on the other side of the mountain. And that's where the beautiful, beautiful scenery takes place. That's where your life just starts transforming. And that's when you just start knowing that you can do anything that is put in your path. And so now every session that I have with my clients, they know right away I'm asking that question every single time. And some of them will start with me and they'll be a 1, they'll be a 2, 3, 4, and that gives me an indication of how long they're going to be with me. And then if they give me, up to 6, 7, 8, they've worked on themselves, but they still got a ways to go. And so that's what I do. My result as a coach is to get them to that loud and proud 10.
Loud and proud 10. Oh man, that's very cool. And you wrote your book called My Best Friend,
Face to Face with God. My best friend.
Face with God, my best friend. So I'm curious about that.
Okay. What do you want to know?
Oh, would you show it again?
Yes.
For me, because, okay, there we go. Yeah. I happen to be looking at the camera instead of the screen. There we go. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Is it on Amazon or is it just on your website? Which, by the way, let me just say it here. TERRI Moore, MOORE, coaching.com. TerriMooreCoaching.com. Terri with an I. So we can, and I know you have an autograph book on your website that you can send. Mm-hmm. Is it on Amazon and other places as well, or?
It is on Amazon. Soon it will be on a lot of more outlets. We're getting ready to relaunch this book. Excuse me. Good. Second edition. And so, yes, this book, when you write a book, and I'm sure you probably felt the same way. When we write a book as an author, we have no idea what kind of impact it's going to make. But do you know that I took this book and somebody reached out to me, and it was a prison. It was a, what do they call them? Prison wards? No. Anyway, president of the prison. Okay. And when he asked me to come in and do a 8-week book series on my book, I got there and it was like, I think I forgot to ask one question. Is it female or male? And it was all male.
Wow.
And I had to sit in the room for the very first time. I was nervous as a cat on a hot tin roof. All these prisoners came in and they were staring at me. Excuse me. And they were like, well, who are you? I said, I'm Terri. I'm the one that's going to be doing the book series. What? I don't know anything about that. I'm not doing that. So anyway, long story short, went there faithfully for 8 weeks. They fell in love with me. I fell in love with them. And they cried when I told them that's my last time. And it was an experience that I will never forget. So, I never knew how this book would make an impact, but it is all over the world, and I'm sure yours is too.
Mine has less probably of that type of impact, but it's still stories, and making a difference. My tiny books, it doesn't take much to make a difference. But writing this book about God being your best friend. So do you have any insights do you want to share around that?
Title?
How did that title and even the message in that book come to pass?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. First of all, I wrote the book Face to Face with God because I feel like I really have an intimate relationship with God. I can't obviously see him face to face, but I can imagine it. So a lot of people, and that's a great question, because many people that interview me, they're like, why did you call it My Best Friend? Well, that's because the incident that I just shared with everyone about the sexual assault attack, I felt like God saved me that day. And that day he became my best friend because he took me out of that car, out of that traumatic situation where I could have been killed very easily because there was a woman 3 weeks before me in the same shopping center that was murdered and stuffed in the trunk to die. So I didn't know if I was dealing with the same perpetrator. I didn't know. So I when I prayed that prayer, I instantly felt like something was coming my way in a good way, and that's when he opened the car door. So I call God my best friend. Yes. And my husband knows that God's here, family's here, my dog, my work. Or sometimes, honestly, it's God, it's my dog, it's my husband. It just depends on how, yeah.
Well, relationships, that's my first question. When I get there, I'm going to say, why are relationships so hard? Why can't we just get along? And we got to deal with all this other stuff out here. But
yes.
Anyway,
yeah.
So that's interesting. So my book called Split Second Transformation, Change Your Words, Change Your Life, 31 Daily Practices. You can have a split second transformation. That is what you had in that moment of, calling out. God is present at all times. And there's nothing, you're loved exactly who and where you are, no matter what. You can't do anything to be loved more or less by God. And so if God is love, he can't be not love. I say these kinds of things in my show quite often to help people remember that who you are is perfect, exactly who and where you are right now. You don't like it. You don't have anywhere else from the past. You can't change one of those things, but you can do what you did, change the next step, and the next step, and take a moment to call out, reach out. I believe with everything in me that there is who I say I am is bold faith, no fear, and who you say you are, what after I am is who you are. And when I say that, bold faith, no fear, who I am, and then I got robbed at gunpoint, stepped towards the gun and said, "You need love," and they ran.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I had no fear. You were probably in massive fear. I had no fear in that moment. And the reason I can say that is because whatever you say after I am is who you are. And I had said so many years, who I am is bold faith, no fear. And when I'm in that situation, I was like, well, I guess I'll win either way. I was, and stepped towards them and said, "You need love," and they ran.
Wow.
I was shaken. It's not like it was a party. It was like I was shaken. They did rob my new computer, my cowboy boots, I was at a convention, all my stuff, but, and massive inconvenience, but, I had my life, and I think they, little old lady walking up this driveway probably was an easy target.
Oh, well, you're not a little old lady. Okay, what was the thing that you said? I am what? I want to write this down.
Who I am?
Yeah, I am.
Who I am is bold faith, no fear. That's the words I got years ago, and that's who I speak over my world, because whatever you say after I am, which is God's name, and you're taking it, you're pulling that God's name, I am, it's the God in you, I am. Bold faith, no fear. I'm outrageously optimistic. I'm outrageously courageous. I speak what I want. And in this little tiny book, this small book, Split Second Transformation, Change Your Words, Change Your Life, 31 Daily Practices, I talk about every word matters. So often, we condemn ourselves. We pray for something, and then we go, yeah, but I don't have enough money. Yeah, but we don't have that bold faith, no fear. And so for whatever reason, I started speaking that, and I'm at least, I'm going to guess 15 or 20 years ago, I started calling myself that. And,
I think every person that's listening to this should do the same thing. And I'm going to implement it. I am bold faith with no fear. Yep.
Exactly. So, I mean, you speak who you want. So this is, I've been convicted of this only in the last few months. I say speak what you want, not what you don't want, but want means lack. So
Uh-huh.
what if you speak your desires?
Mm-hmm.
And the desire means of the Father.
Mm-hmm. Psalm 37:4.
Of the Father, desire. So speak what you desire and not what you want, because want is lack. And then don't, this is the point I think I was trying to get to when I started that. You spoke what you desired and you made a promise in that moment, in that split second. You had a choice to succumb and be in fear or be in faith. And that was faith.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't know it, but that's what it
Right. That's very true. I didn't think about it like that. Yeah. So, when you have been raised in a family of mistrust, betrayal, rejection, fear, it just it keeps in your soul, until you learn to let it go. And I still struggle with fear. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I have a right by any means, but I have been able to control it more and turn it into faith, and it's really helped considerably as far as that. So, great
A
question.
few years ago, 2020, I started saying, be prepared, not scared. Be prepared, not scared. There's so much more going on than meets the eye. Be prepared, not scared. Don't succumb into that fear, because I just, somehow, I don't know how to even express this, but if you continue believing that you are saved, that you are saved, that you are safe and saved, and you continue acting in the faith as such, even if you're in a really dire circumstance or crash or whatever, if you can take a breath, you're okay in that moment.
You're right.
And until you're pushing up daisies on the other side of the dirt, right? You're
right.
If you can take a breath, the breath of life, the I am in you, the breath, then you're okay in that moment. And if you don't like the circumstance, claim what you want, what you desire, and take a different trajectory of your next step. You can't change the last step, only the next step. Right?
Exactly. And if I can share this, I do workshops for a women's resource center here in Greensboro. I volunteer my time. And the last one we did, it was all about Valentine's Day, and I had a sheet and it said, I am, and there's like 10 of them, right? And so I asked them to fill it out, and then they had to stand up and they had to share a couple of them. Do you know that it was almost everyone in the room that can only get to 3? And I went, okay, so we have 3 out of 10. So then I started coming in thinking, okay, what do you like about yourself? And so when they started telling me what they like about, I said, okay, so that I am strong, because and that's the thing. There's so many of us women walking around the face of this earth that can't they can't say positive things about themselves.
We minimize our greatness. And
yes,
it's a huge thing. My 3-year-old granddaughter that comes often, she's got her I ams, she says for months she was, I am happy, I'm happy, and then now we've added, she remembers them all, amazing to me. I'm strong, I'm smart, I'm kind, I'm
wow,
because I'm kind, and I'm trustworthy, and we use that one a lot, because I was like, I'm trusting you to sit right here while I run in the house for 1 minute, and I'm in the backyard anyway. And she remembers them. She knows what they mean. I am powerful. I'm brave. I can do hard things. I mean, and this last week I told her, I said, I have integrity. So I'm teaching her integrity, which means honoring your word, being a person of your word.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. You're a great Nana? Are you grandma or a Nana? Or
I'm a Nana. I was Nana, but she calls me Nanny. So I guess I'm Nanny to her.
Yeah, I'm a Nana. Yeah.
My mom was a Nana. My sisters were Nanas, but she changed it to Nanny, and that's cute for me. It's all good.
Yes, that is very cute. And you said she's 3?
She turned 3 the day before I turned 71, which was at the end of November. So
71. Girl, you look great.
I am great. I choose great. Listen, I mean, for me to change and be able to go, oh yeah, whatever. So I was a flight attendant for 34 years. I was in a class with an NLP, and at lunch he said, if I ever hear you say, oh, I was just a flight attendant,
Oh,
a 34-year award-winning flight attendant. So I was like, oh, so I was able to shift that. So since I was a 34-year award-winning flight attendant, raising 3 kids and 3 stepkids, and the super mom, the pool party mom. We had the pool in the neighborhood, and the mission trip mom, and if I can do that, and I could get, I was a coordinator international on airplanes. I can do anything, right? So
you can do anything.
That. And it was just that split second of transformation that I shifted. I didn't have a degree, so I was just a flight attendant. 34 years. It's a lot.
That is,
and I worked max hours, and I commuted, and I managed a household. I don't know. And I did layover. I love layovers too. I was in Europe, and I don't know. It was just great. But it was a great job for me. If you're comfortable with childcare, it was really great. But anyway, so what we speak about ourselves, I have an Olympic torch I carried for the Salt Lake City Olympics, and it was behind this screen. And one day, I took it downstairs. It's hanging in my living room now. I mean, why not? It's a beautiful award. It was huge honor to get to do that. 100 people out of an 80,000 company, Delta Airlines.
Wow.
100 people were chosen for that, and 100 people were chosen for Chairman's Club, which is another. So I had 2 major awards in my career that only 100. It was peer nominated. Only 100 people got, and so I'm like, well, I was an award-winning flight attendant, even, So here I am taking all this about me. I don't want it to be about me. I think that you have the most overcoming story. I do overcoming, right? This is my I want people to have hope. I want them to know that there's something else out there, that they can have hope. This is what the Charla Anderson Show is about. And I would love it if you guys would subscribe on YouTube. Might as well ask. I forget to ask, right? I get so involved in our conversation, but subscribe on YouTube and go find this book that is about face to face with God. Can you imagine? And then you're teaching it to prisoners, and they're receiving it. These little things we just do, and it's just our life. It's just what we do. It's just what we do.
Yeah.
It's just we do. Okay, we make great egg sandwiches. It's just what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And other people look at it and go, wow, how did you do all that? But they've got their own stuff that they've done, just like you and I.
Exactly. I always tell people on stage, if you have a mess like I did, I really expect you to turn it into a message, because I had no idea my story about from childhood all the way up to now would impact so many lives. And I'm talking thousands and thousands and thousands. But the thing about it is, if we don't believe in ourselves, we're not going to feel that way. Okay? So, what I want to give some advice: if you have a mess, you turn it into your message. You go out, you speak, you share, get in networking groups. They need to hear your story, because you never ever know how you're going to change somebody's life. And I'm very honored to say this. I had a woman come up to me after a speaking engagement. And she said, she says, I'll never forget this. She said, I wasn't even coming today. My friend wanted me to come, but I actually wanted to kill myself today. I said, so let me ask you this question. So you were contemplating suicide? She says, no, I was going to do it. She says, but something told me I need to go with my friend because I promised her I'd go. And she says, your story changed my life. And now I have hope. And that's because I turned my mess into a message. I was courageous enough to step out of the boat and tell. And now I tell it all over the world. And just some days it just blows my mind, though, It just blows my mind what God can do when we allow him to use us as his vessel.
It's really beautiful. And just smiling, I'm my show, Collector and Connector of Fascinating People, is kind of this little cute tagline that I came up with because I was trying to, who am I? Well, I meet friends at Aldi, right? I meet friends at the grocery store.
Yes.
I
yes.
have, because I've chosen to stand in my light and let the light shine, and people are drawn to that. And whether it's just a smile or a eye contact, or I buy them a candy bar and offer a hug. That's what that Candy Bar Hugs book is about. You can't, it doesn't take much. And sometimes you're the one
Yes.
to make that impact in their lives right then and there. You have no idea. And when you take the focus off of yourself, if you take the focus off of what's wrong and put it on how can I make a difference? Or, and if people listening, we talk about this a lot, I do anyway, if you're in depression or if you're in a low place, the dark place, gratitude has got to start with something that you're thankful for, and perhaps how you could encourage someone else. Those two things, once you can think of, and I said this, I think it was on last week's show, I was like, I'm thankful for my toenails. I mean, if it comes down to you can't think of anything, there's always something.
Absolutely.
Gratitude is key.
You're right. And there's so many times I get up and my hair is either all messed up or, the cut's not right, or, I can't get it styled. And I say, shut up, Terri, because you should just be grateful that you have hair, because unfortunately there's a lot of women that get up in the morning and they have to put wigs on because they're dealing with cancer or something else going on. And I have a friend who's a beautiful, beautiful woman. And for a long time, I did not know she was wearing a wig, but then she showed me her hair, which kind of shocked me when she took her wig off. But she lost all of her hair to COVID. And it's growing back slowly, but it's very short. And yeah, I was shocked. But you know what? It's not on our beauty is not on the outside. It's in the inside.
Well, yes. This is a meat suit. It's a skin. It's this, who we are has very little to do with this unless we allow it, because I've met no arms, no legs, Nick Vujicic, or however you say his name.
Oh, wow.
I have met him. I got pictures with him. I've hugged him. I'm a Zig Ziglar Legacy certified trainer, and he's been a part of that. And he tried to kill himself when he was little because he wanted to drown himself, but he couldn't because he couldn't hold his breath under the water. He was all lung. And so he tells those kind of stories on himself, right? But who he is not this. Who he is the God, soul, spirit inside.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And if I became, heaven forbid, it's disfigured or whatever, it's easier, I'm sure, said than done. But when I was flying, there would be some some cranky old people coming on and they're just in pain and mean and whatever. And then there would be someone just with the most beautiful countenance, not a beautiful face, but a countenance of genuine kindness and smiling eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just feel that they, all this messed up wheelchair stuff, whatever they got, wasn't them.
Right.
Unless you let that define you, right?
Right. I'm glad that you said that, because back to the mirror exercise that I do with my clients, because when they first get to know me, they'll do the same thing. In the first couple of sessions, they'll come to me and I'll go, well, what was on the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, where do you see yourself loving yourself back in the mirror? They go, well, let's see, I've had a good day today. Nobody's but. I said, that's not what I'm asking. This is what I'm asking. I want you to look in the mirror and think about where you've been and where you're going, and how you feel about yourself right now. And then they'll, I feel like an 8. Okay, so then we're making some progress. Because, us women, we can look in the mirror and be our worst critic. Oh my gosh, look at the gray hair, or look at the wrinkles on my face, the crow's feet.
We focus on what's wrong instead of what's right. We focus on that 10% of I've got a spot on my face and I've got, oh my gosh, instead of, if I have a smile in my eyes and a smile on my lips, the rest is almost going to be invisible if you have a smile in your heart and a smile on your face.
It was so funny. I was on stage one day and I asked everybody to pull out their driver's license. And I said, I really want you to stare at this. I see you did the same thing. And, because so.
They don't take good pictures. They try.
all I heard was, no, I don't want to. But I said, you know what? I said, I want you to look at that person. I don't want you to look at your face or your expression. I want you to look at that person's soul, and then you could just see some smiles coming. But I also told them this: you have every right when you go to the license branch that you can smile for your pictures. And see, people don't realize that. They think they have to do a mugshot. The last time I told this lady, I said, don't take a picture until I have a smile on my face. And I have the best driver's license picture I've ever had.
That's awesome. Well, it's incredible how fast the hour goes. We're at the end. Is Terri Moore coaching.com, Terri with an I, morecoaching.com. What do you, last word, what do you want to leave them with?
I want to leave you with this. No matter what age you are or where you've been, you can always change. And by that, I say get the professional help that Charlene and I offer to anyone that needs to remove those emotional triggers from their past. You heard my story. If I can do it, you can too. Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's amazing. So anybody who's watching, I said, when she got on, I'm like, okay, we coordinated our colors here. I like, you might know, teal is my favorite color because I can't spell turquoise, but we didn't plan it, but it was fun.
It was fun, yes. And thank you for allowing me to share my story. And I can't wait for everyone to see the movie. It's not, and I want to make sure I understand and make this clear. It's not a full-fledged movie. This is a narrative movie, it's like a short movie, almost
documentary thing. So guess what? People are listening to my little Twitter-sized books, right? People are, wanting shorter content, and it probably will be so incredibly impactful. Not probably, it will be so incredibly impactful that, the rest of the story might get to come out later too. Who knows?
Well, there's talk already about doing a mini Netflix series.
Wow. Yeah. Well, and on your life, and who would have thought, right? You think you grow up going, here, I've been an abused thing and I'm nothing but God. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next year. Subscribe on YouTube, watch the replays, and see you next week. And remember to always, always, always choose joy.
Parting is such sweet sorrow. The Charla Anderson Show. Encouraging you to stand strong and courageous with bold faith, no fear, immense hope, kindness, and love, especially towards yourself. Visit charlaanderson.com for replays, blogs, and more on her ever-expanding website, as well as watch her live TV show on winwinwomen.tv, Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And so that we can continue learning together and growing this community of beautiful souls, we invite you to share the Charla Anderson Show with your circle of friends. Until we meet again next week, remember always, choose joy.